Studio by Akiva Rosenblatt, senior rabbi at the Hampstead Synagogue and a former Hatzalah responder. That's the Jewish charity whose ambulances have been attacked in this instance. Pleasing to hear they'll be replaced at the government's expense, and you'll have new ambulances lent for the foreseeable until such time, which is something, isn't it? Your thoughts on what happened?
Well, just absolutely shocked this morning, lost for words. I don't think we really believed that this would happen in this way. I mean, we're not surprised because we've been facing so much anti-Semitism, especially since those horrific attacks on October 7th. But this, I think, is a new low.
The Prime Minister, in that section we played there, talked about the social cohesion strategy. And, obviously, this applies to every citizen in the country. Safety and security is everything. How do we it's never perfect, but how do we rebuild that weave, that warp and weave, where you are not attacked for being a Jew, you are not attacked for being a Christian, you are not attacked for being a Muslim, or for any reason? Something is changing, not just I'll come back specifically to what happened here, but there's something changing with that weave, isn't there?
I think there is. I think there's just a lack of understanding that we have of each other, and I think, these things can get resolved through conversation and really getting a deeper understanding of the humanity of each other. I think that's a bit lost. We don't see the humanity in each other. And I think really that question needs to be asked to the perpetrators, not to us. But
then again, we have to, between us all, keep that weave
of course
safe, don't we, as well?
Absolutely.
But you're absolutely right in terms of the attack. Why don't you tell me and others what Hatzalah is and what its history is?
So Hatzalah is a first response kind of emergency ambulance service. It was set up by the Jewish community, funded by the Jewish community, but it needs to, to make it really clear that they respond to all calls, regardless of where those calls are coming from, whether it's inside the Jewish community or outside the Jewish community, and they're there to save lives, regardless of who those lives are.
Is it akin to St. John's Ambulance, or is it different to that?
There's similarities, yeah. But really what happens with Hatzalah is that responders get into their own vehicles. They drive their own cars to respond to the scene. The ambulances are used when they need to transport a patient to the hospital, but people are driving their own cars. And as soon as they get called through, they could be at work, they could be shopping, they could be anywhere. As soon as the call comes through, you go straight to your car and you drive to the scene of the incident and you'll get there within minutes.
And is there a sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of the provenance of it. Is it from a religious perspective, a service perspective, a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both. We value life and cherish life so much in Judaism. So saving a life was one of the biggest mitzvahs, one of the greatest acts, good deeds that one can do. So very much, it's being driven by a lot of that. But also, there's a need, and when there's a need, we have to go and fill it, and that's what Hatzalah is trying to do.
Like if you cross my path and you need help, we're here.
Absolutely.
Because it isn't just Jews you help. It's important to say.
Hatzalah means to save. That's what the word means. It's the Hebrew word to save, and it's about saving lives.
I saw a post on X earlier from a gentleman whose Iranian mother lives in Britain, was saved by the charity in the last week or so.
Absolutely. There are countless cases of people who are from outside the Jewish community.
When the Prime Minister put out a statement earlier on today on social media, I noticed very quickly a lot of responses that said, save your empty words. The same happened when Wes Streeting made the initial offer about the ambulances being replaced. A lot of British Jews don't feel that the government and the police and maybe other institutions as well haven't done enough to protect Jews from this surge in anti-Semitism. Are they right?
Well, you're right that a lot of Jews are expressing those concerns and they are criticising the government and criticising the police as well. I personally get the sense that they really are trying their best. I do appreciate that as well. I was deeply moved by the fact that they are replacing those ambulances. They didn't have to do that. And people will say they had to, but they didn't have to.
It's a very striking practical act, isn't it?
It is. And that means a lot. That means a lot to the Jewish community. And I think there's sometimes, we do feel that the police perhaps aren't doing enough, but I think that they're trying their best. I do get that sense. And we appreciate their support for the Jewish community. Could there be more that's done? Absolutely. And we will always push for that to happen.
I've talked a lot, as you can imagine, over the last nearly 3 years, 2.5 years, since October the 7th. An awful lot of people, when you talk about Jewish pain, roll their eyes as if to say, oh, here we go again, I've literally been on the receiving end of that in calls I've had to this programme. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those people when they just feel that there is a distinct thing happening when you're talking about Jews, or when you're talking about Israel, or when you knit the two together, whether there's a connection or not? How has that manifested itself in the lives of Jews in this country? It's
a good question. I think sometimes people do feel, and they expressed on radio and on social media, that we kind of deserve it because we're responsible in some way for what's going on thousands of miles, away in Israel. And I think that's deeply unfair, to blame British Jews for whatever's going on in the Middle East. And any more than I should blame my Muslim neighbour for Islamic State. Exactly. And let's remember, these are ambulances, these are saving lives. This has absolutely nothing to do with Zionism or anything to do with that. And I think that's just an excuse more than anything else. You strike me as and you're a rabbi, so I'm glad to hear it. You strike me as a man who looks to hope and looks to constructive things. I think that's the job of any religious leader. But do you see, in your own work with people who come to you for conversations and for solace maybe sometimes, do you see a sense of despair about the future for Jews in Britain? I see a lot of fear, I see a lot of anxiety, and I see a lot of worry. And as you say, I feel that my role as a rabbi is to talk about hope and positivity, and that's why actually this evening, I can't say where for security reasons, and that's another issue, but we're doing a concert called the Vahisha Amda concert for the Jewish community, which is all about hope and all about seeing a vision for a better future. It's the statement that we make at the Seder night, which is coming up at Passover, at Pesach, which is in every single generation they rise up to destroy us. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu Matzilenu Mi'adam, that God always protects us and looks after us, and it's really a miracle that we're still here today, given all that we've faced. You might have seen, maybe you haven't, but there was a really good and funny and touching series on, I think it was Netflix, called Nobody Wants This, about a non-Jewish woman and a rabbi. I've heard all about this.
I'm sure you have, yeah. But the actress who plays the mother of the rabbi, the young rabbi, I saw her speaking about attacks on Jews and anti-Semitism and hope and sticking with it kind of thing, as in staying in the country you live in. And she said my parents, who were Holocaust survivors, my parents told me never diminish your Jewishness, because even if you do, they'll remind you anyway. Is that something that chimes with you and what you would say to somebody? Very much so, very much so. My message always has been that when they do these things, we have to express our Judaism in a louder, more proud way. I mean, I walk down the streets of London every day with my kippah, with my tzitzit. You wear it every day, do you? I wear it every day outside, and although sometimes I may be a bit fearful depending on where I'm walking, I will not stop doing that. Because you're not going to hide? No, never. It's funny, a few months ago on the tube, there was a young man, very young man, early 20s, sitting opposite me. And he looked at me a few times, and I was thinking, when you're in public, you're like, what's going on here? Because we all have to be aware, And then he got out a Star of David chain. Magen David is the sorry. Magen David, yeah. English translation by Shelagh Fogarty. And he said to me, "Are you the woman off the radio?" And I said, "I'm the woman off the radio, yeah." And he then expressed to me how he was showing me that because he's hiding it normally. And then he said, "Actually, more and more, I'm not hiding it." And he was saying, "I'm just not having this." And I was impressed with him. He was a young lad, a student in UK university with international family heritage, and he wasn't going to be put down and frightened. It is very impressive, and I'm inspired by all of those stories. I saw a lot of those stories post October 7th when Jews kind of felt more threatened, and in a way, the way we responded to that was by being more out there and being more proud of who we are and our identity. There was actually, now we're talking about this, there was a lady who rang the programme last week, if I could remember her name. She rang last week, I think her name was Suzanne, an 80-year-old woman in Hampstead, and she was the opposite. She was afraid. She only goes out to shop and then she stays at home and friends visit, but she's too afraid to just be in the mix of life anymore, and that's very, very sad. It is very sad, and there are so many of those out there as well, absolutely, and we've got to support them the best way that we can. We have to let this investigation obviously take its course. If it turns out to have an Iranian connection, and we already know that there have been investigations into other alleged terror attacks or plans for terror attacks, does that make the danger feel even more acute, or does it feel like more of the same? I don't think we're so surprised by that. I think we know that they're out to get us. We've always known that, and now it's just become more apparent. If indeed this claim by this group turns out to be true. That turns out to be true. But we've got to just continue doing what we're doing and stay calm, but stay vigilant at the same time. Thank you very much for joining me today. Good to talk to you. Akiva Rosenblatt, Senior Rabbi at the Hampstead Synagogue and a former Hatzalah responder as well, who was there this morning and very kindly came to talk to us now. 2:48.
We did. I'm going to talk about the majority. No one came out to demonstrate as they did for Palestine.
On that scale, absolutely not. No, they didn't.
Every now and then. So all we want is these guys should leave, or the war should carry on until when they leave the country, and then we have peace. Otherwise, the oil business is going to be there every now and then. Okay, thanks, Liam. Something tells me Graham sees it rather differently. Hello, Graham in Glasgow.
Hi there. You were posing the question: should the war end?
No. Do you want the war to end?
No. Yeah. Obviously, we don't want anybody, dying or anything like that. That's the last thing we want. But there was a diplomatic solution on the table that Iranians were supposedly giving up loads of concessions. So we're told. We haven't got confirmation of that, which is why that you might be right. We just don't know for sure, do we? That's all the information that's came out. That's what we've heard. That they were willing to give up
all sorts of things
that they hadn't previously. And also, just to take note, Donald Trump was the one that ripped up the Iran deal that was supposedly working. Just like he ripped up all the trade deals that he'd done. Just like he said that he's going to invade Canada, Venezuela, Cuba, Greenland. Now it's Iran. Where's it going to end? Why are we not actually asking ourselves, who's dealing with this guy? He's totally out of control. Where is the 25th Amendment?
He's not for us to deal with, is he? He's for the Americans to deal with.
But we need to face the reality that it's impacting us.
You don't think the Iranian regime and the reality there impacts us at all?
Yeah, to a certain extent. But, what did we achieve in Iraq and Afghanistan by bombing all those years and all those lives lost? Nothing. The Taliban are still in control. Iraq's still a mess.
Islamic State still exists?
Yeah.
So what do you think will happen? Do you think this is just more of Donald Trump's games?
I think he's totally flapping. The base is raging that he started another war. The markets are raging because he's caused such a huge mess that he's looking for any way out of it.
My sense of things is that he has lied and cried wolf so often about things that we're all disoriented. We don't know what to think. And we find ourselves, as Emily was saying, in a position of Donald Trump putting out a hopeful message for peace talks and us waiting for a comment from the Iranian regime to tell us whether it's true or not.
Is he not just stalling?
I don't know. We don't know. But we are left waiting for the Iranian regime to tell us what's true or not, which is a bit rum, isn't it? Thank you, Graham. David?
Who's dealing with this guy? He's totally out of control. Where is the 25th Amendment?
He's not for us to deal with, is he? He's for the Americans to deal with.
But we need to face the reality that it's impacting us.
You don't think the Iranian regime and the reality there impacts us at all? He's LBC's crime correspondent. Jake Wallace-Simons, I get it wrong every time, Jake, my apologies, joins me. Telegraph columnist. Some blind spots you have with names? I've got